Yeah, you and I got to meet out at WrestleMania, and one thing that I wanted to ask you about, because the reaction to what's been going on with WWE since the main event at WrestleMania and some other things that happened has been, I don't know, it's been very weird, and people are kind of like, what happened? And I don't know, it's been kind of strange. What were your thoughts after Cody lost, and what have you been hearing from everybody about their reaction to Roman Reigns still being the champ?
Well, here's what I want to say about WrestleMania 39 in general. It was a great event. Yes, I think you can easily make the argument that night one was a stronger night, better booking than night two, but WrestleMania as a whole, I think, was awesome. And I think that too many people were left with a bad taste in their mouth because the guy they wanted to win, the guy they thought was going to win, Cody Rhodes, didn't win. And I think that caused a lot of people to go, oh, man, WrestleMania sucked. WrestleMania wasn't as good as I thought it could have been. The whole thing was great. You just didn't like who was looking at the lights after the 1, 2, 3 at the end of the main event. But I think that everything considered, that match was fantastic.
Yep.
Just because you didn't like that Roman Reigns won and Cody Rhodes didn't, doesn't mean that the whole event isn't good. And I think that there's a lot of people that are really forgetting all of the other amazing matches we saw that night, all the memorable moments that we saw. So I think that a lot of people are not taking that event with a grain of salt and realizing that, like, as a whole, this was all good. Just because your guy didn't win doesn't mean the whole weekend wasn't good. So, but I understand what you're saying, Mark. And, like, I feel like the WWE had a ton of momentum going into WrestleMania. And I feel like the win was kind of taken out of everybody's sails, at least from a fan's perspective, because Cody Rhodes was not the guy. And I think that everyone kind of was like going into that weekend expecting that, you know, at the end of Sunday night, going into Raw on Monday, that Cody was going to be the champion. But it just feels like it kind of, I think there's a lot of fans that are nervous that this is going to go back to how it was a few years ago, where it's like, oh, that's what you guys want as fans? We're going to give you the exact opposite thing.
Right.
So
Well,
it'll be really curious what happens as we head into SummerSlam.
Yeah, and I think one thing that caused that problem as well was Raw the next night.
Yeah.
With Vince kind of changing a ton of stuff around. We heard all the stories about the rewrites and everything else. And, you know, people just weren't digging Raw and SmackDown, you know, some of the things that were happening on those shows for quite a while. And then it changed and everybody was excited to watch the shows again. And then we hear that, and the Raw after WrestleMania just wasn't quite what we're used to a Raw after WrestleMania being like. And it just felt like the brakes got put on. You know what I mean?
Well, that was not only like one of the worst Raws after WrestleMania, that just wasn't a good episode of Raw, period. And I think that the expectation is so high, especially with that wave that WWE has been riding. And I feel like that made people go, wait a second. Our guy didn't win at WrestleMania. Now, there was really no big returns or surprises or anything really fun that happened the Raw after WrestleMania. Now this deal with Endeavor's happening. What is going on? Like, is WWE going in the other direction? And I think that this really is just going to be a game of wait and see. Like, and then that's impossible to do in wrestling because fans always want to, you know, guess what's going to be happening in the future. But I really think that we need to sit and wait and see, because it's so hard in wrestling to judge things as they're happening. Like, pro wrestling is one of those things where you really can't appreciate everything as a whole picture until you're able to zoom out just a little bit, whether that's a few weeks or a few months, and see, oh, this is how this is all working within the bigger picture.